Okay, so this is my PowerPoint on horror films by me. This is the video that I'm making for it. Horror films are designed to scare people, cause dread and alarm, and to cause the worst fears that we have in us to come out, normally to a crazy ending of the story or something. However, it's also meant to captivate us and entertain us in a sort of cathartic or different experience. The horror films are pretty much just the darker side of our life, the stuff that we see as wrong or just disturbing, you may say. They deal with our primal natures and its fears, the nightmares that we may have, our vulnerability to life, alienation, the stuff that we find revolting, disgusting, and our terror of the unknown, our fear of death and dismemberment, a loss of identity or fear of sexuality. Whatever dark, primitive, and revolting traits, they somehow attract us. However, they also repel us at the same time in the horror genre. They're often combined with the science fiction when maybe our antagonist may be a monster or someone evil. It may be related to technology becoming corrupt, or maybe it's threatened by alien people, even. The fantasy and supernatural film genres are not the same with the horror genre, although thriller films may have some similarity because they focus on horrible acts of a killer. Horror films are also known as chillers, scare movies, spookfests, and macabre. These are some of the earliest horror films from time. You can see they started in 1896 with La Manoir du Diable, all the way to 1920 with Das Cabinet des Docteur Caligari. You can see even some of them. You have Les Vampires and Notre Dame. Those may be part of the supernatural. Then we have, once again, the early vampire films. This would be supernatural, stuff like that. The Vampire from 1913 to 1922, where we have a symphony of horror. You also have the infamous Dracula Holla, A Fool There Was, and Nocte de Grange. Some of our early monster films, which would once again fall under the mysterious or supernatural category. We have 1913 to 1915. A lot of them came out at this time. You have Der Student von Prague, and then you have the Der Golem trilogy, I guess you would call it. You have Der Golem in 1914 being the first one, Der Golem und die Tanzerin 1917, and then Der Golem in 1920. And then in 1910, you can see that one would actually be the earliest. We have the infamous Frankenstein. This is the one we all know. Now, this would be the beginning of sort of classic horror films, almost made them what they are, and the end of silent horror films. So we have Waxwork in 1924, The Cat and the Canary 1927, The Man Who Laughs also in 1927, and The Terror in 1928. Here you have earlier classic horror films. Now, some that you may not have known were considered horror films are King Kong in 1933, and actually Titanic is also seen as a horror film in 1997. You also have, once again, Dracula the Infamous, Freaks in 1932, The Old Dark House, and Then here's some of my favorites. Personally, I love the Halloween genre. I think it's amazing. Dawn of the Dead, Alien, Friday the 13th, The Evil Dead, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Us. They're all great movies. So, yep, that's the end of my PowerPoint.